point in time did she ever say anything about hoping law enforcement would find the people responsible for killing her husband?
No.
At any point in time, did you hear her express any concern about the people who killed her husband still being at large?
No.
I have another question.
Anything further about that? No.
And at no time, Detective Roberts, did you ever hear her in those unreserved, whatever the hours were of overhears, confess to Mr. Baker that she was involved in the murder of Fabio Sementilli, did she?
I'm going to object. Cumulative.
Overruled.
Direct confession, I did it?
Yes.
Correct. That never happened.
Now, you gave some testimony concerning a difference in the format that you used for the Lifestyle Lounge examination on January 28th. Is that what you said?
A different way to, a different application to access the, it appeared to be a different application. One was through the app and one was through directly through the website.
And that was, you got involved in that during the course of your preparation for the trial here, correct? You learned about that.
Actually, that came about, yes, as I was prepping, and the question last night before we recessed was, how do I know Monica wasn't out in the Ralph's parking lot smoking a cigarette and things like that? And I testified that I know she wasn't on her phone. And then I thought, I better make sure that that's correct, that she wasn't on her phone. So I had with the assistance of one of the clerks at the DA's office, help me with the records and actually determined that she had accessed Lifestyle Lounge, but it was, so she had utilized her phone, but was when she was inside the Ralph's. And then that led to a further investigation into the Lifestyle Lounge and her deletion of the app.
Yeah, but none of that meant she couldn't have been smoking a cigarette when she left the Ralph's Market or in the car or at any time she was out of view of the camera, right?
Correct. That's just how it led me to that investigation.
And when you were actually investigating the case, you never noted the Lifestyle Lounge incident as you do now, back when you were the actual investigator regarding January 28th.
Well, I knew about Lifestyle Lounge and some communications that was made through Lifestyle Lounge. I didn't know the extent of the amount of messages that needed further analysis and about the deletion.
But once again, the longer somebody, Monica Sementilli, waited to get home, if she was involved in a conspiracy to kill her husband, the more time the killers would have to leave the residence without being detected. Doesn't that remain a fact?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
The longer that Ms. Sementilli, Monica Sementilli, waited, if what you're saying is correct, longer than the normal time to get home, the longer she waited, the more time it would give the killers to leave the location, correct?
I think what's correct is it would give Monica the appropriate amount of time to not get home while the killers were still there.
Okay, which would, obviously, if she was involved, would be one of her goals, correct?
Yeah, I would assume.
And if she wasn't, and if she was involved, she certainly wouldn't want her daughter walking in on the murder and report it immediately to 911 as she did. Isn't that a fair statement?
Based on the evidence of this case, I would say, I would hope that that would be true, but that just doesn't seem to be true to me in this case.
You've got somewhat of a bias here. Would you agree, in fact, that you're the investigating officer in the case in which Monica Sementilli is being tried?
Yes, because I wouldn't be testifying had I not believed that
Okay.
she was guilty of the crime in which
Of
she
course.
was charged for.
I sure hope not.
Right.
But the point you're making is you have no explanation for Monica Sementilli being on the phone with her daughter Bella 5 or 10 minutes before she gets to the house and doing nothing to prevent her from arriving at the house almost right at the time the murder is taking place. And if she was a conspirator in the murder, logic tells you she would have had Bella show up later. She could have met with her. She could have had lunch with her, coffee, go to Starbucks, and make sure neither one of them walked in on the murder, and more important, the murderers had time to escape. Isn't that a reasonable possibility?
Objection calls for speculation
It's
as well
argumentative.
as
It's argumentative.
argumentative and compound.
Sustained.
Well, you gave some speculation why you thought Monica showed up right at the time of the murder, correct?
I sustained the objection based on
Okay.
argumentative.
And you did not initially include Bella in the in your maps to see how far she was from the doctor's office to where she had the interview from her residence, did you?
Did I draw a map and have her?
Did you?
Sorry.
Well, you said you drove the route from Ralph's to the home. How many times?
Multiple times. It was, I would have to say, 10.
Okay. Did you ever drive the route of Bella Sementilli from her school to her interview to the doctor's office, eyeglasses, and how far then that doctor's office was to the residence?
No, Bella Sementilli was not a suspect in this case.
And you thought it was irrelevant as to whether or not Monica Sementilli did or did not prevent or try to prevent her daughter from walking in on a murder that you're saying she had planned. That was irrelevant to
I
you.
don't think it was irrelevant. It was just not supported by the evidence.
Well, first you get the evidence and then you analyze it, correct?
Well, I had the.
Was that just correct? That's my question. First
Well,
you
I'm-
get the evidence, the facts, and then you analyze it, correct?
In this case, I had the evidence was there, so that's not correct in this case because the evidence was there for me to analyze.
You had the times, right? All the times you had Fabio Sementilli, even evidence proving he was alive at 4:37 that afternoon, correct?
Correct.
You had the times that the killers jogged up the avenue and
Correct.
entered the home, correct?
Yes.
You had the time they left, correct?
Yes.
And then you had the times that Monica Sementilli and Bella Sementilli arrived at the house, correct?
Correct.
And you did a great deal of efforts, a great deal of time to determine 10, 11 times how long it would take Monica to get to the house if she drove immediately from Ralph's and did nothing in between, correct?
Yes.
You took no consideration as to whether she stopped along the way, had a cigarette, ran into somebody, listened to something on the radio, had something wrong with her car, nothing like that. You had no way of knowing if anything interfered with her arrival at home when she left the Ralph's parking lot.
Objection cumulative.
Same.
And most important, she was out of view from any cameras from the moment she left the Ralph's store with her package until she showed up at the house, correct?
Cumulative.
Sustained.
Now, when it came to the evidence that you were just reviewing with Ms. Silverman as to why you believed Ms. Sementilli was guilty, what you would say in the include side, correct?
Yes.
Did you take, and you said, well, Mr. Baker lied hundreds or tens of hundreds of times, I don't know, 10 times, 20 times, on the overhears. You felt you caught him in many lies on there, correct?
Object the state statements.
So,
You took that into account, what you heard on the
I
overhears?
believe that what I said, that he said in the overhears that he would lie and say he would take the blame. He'd go, he'd take the blame, that he would lie. That was my testimony.
And
But
this-
I do believe there was lies on the overhears.
Sure. And the gist of his testimony we're saying is he would say he did it even if he didn't do it. He would lie and say he did it if he didn't do it to help her, right?
That's not the gist that I got. The
Okay.
gist was, if you take it in the context of the entire overhear, he said, if this shit goes bad for us, which right there is suspicious to me, I'll lie, I'll go down, I'll say, it was me. You need to go home.
Have you heard him testify under oath here?
No, I have not.
But you've heard Mr. Austin testify under oath.
I was not here when Mr. Austin testified.
Did you hear Mr. Austin give the proffers when he was under oath? Mr. Austin, I'm sorry. Did I say
Objection
that?
cumulative.
it is.
Do you know how many times Mr. Austin, the prosecution's star witness, lied to the police and to the court and to the jury in this case?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
And as you know, Mr. Baker has not testified yet, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Yes, sustained.
So the people who would judge his testimony will be the jury, not you, correct?
The people that'll
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.